I will start. I'm Drew. I've been an esthetician for about a decade now. I live in Colorado and I own my business, Skin and Barrett, which went virtual about 4 years before COVID when I first had my babies. And I did not want to be in a spa the entire time I was trying to raise them.
What was that? I guess we'll get started, but like, what was that like, click it moment for you where you were like, I can totally do this virtual?
So it was actually really funny. I joined, some of those mommy support groups when I first had my babies because I didn't know what I was doing with the screaming potato at all. So I kind of joined a few groups, and spoiler alert, they're not very supportive in the most cases. So one of the groups, though, was really supportive, and a couple of the people in the group started asking questions about their skin and their changing skin as new moms and everything. And I was like, oh my gosh, something I can actually answer. So I started just, it was almost cathartic for me. It gave me a sense of purpose while I was, reading Brown Bear over and over again. And I was able to support some people and help them with their skin. And we connected on, personal level, because when your skin changes and you've had a baby, you're emotional and it's hard. So they were actually really encouraging about taking this virtual, and they were like, there's definitely something to be done with this, like you should really do it. And I was like, no, no, no. But finally I kind of started at least charging for a few things, and then selling my own products instead of recommending things from Sephora, off the cuff. And then it kind of just evolved from there. And I saw just such longevity with my clients, right? I still have people from those early stages when I was just like carrying a baby around and taking a phone call as a consult.
That's so
And I
cool.
still have those clients. So it's really great to just see their skin improve and to check in. And, you mentioned it in a post last week about how the follow-up is so important. And that's what virtual allows you to do, is just constant follow-up.
How did you make the trend? So you were in the treatment room at that point, or
Was, yeah. I was working at a spa, and I mean, anybody who knows me understands that like I didn't agree with anything they were doing at the spa. I didn't like their products. I didn't like their treatments. And so I was like a bandit of some sort, hijacking the treatment room and bringing in my own products to treat people's acne and
that's
telling them not to tell the owner. So it was really a rough situation. But I think the worst of it was I was obviously losing money bringing in my own products, and, that was ridiculous. But then paying somebody to watch my child, I was in the negative.
yeah.
Like, I was working for my peace of mind, but it wasn't lucrative. I wasn't making money. It wasn't working at all. So yeah, I figured something needed to change.
So what was that like click aha moment where you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and then what were the steps that you started taking to get virtual?
Well, thankfully, when I talk to people, they don't have to take all the steps that I took, because I made a lot of wrong steps. This had never been done before when I started it. There was nobody else who was doing virtual skincare that I could lean on for support or ask about how we do this. So, once we moved, instead of finding a new job at a spa and then finding childcare and all of that, I really just started brainstorming and figuring out how I could monetize what I was already doing. Um, would I be able to kind of just stop having conversations with other adults to make myself feel better about their skin, and could I, like, put some monetization to that? So I started my website. I built it from scratch. I went onto Squarespace. I just put up a couple of products, and I figured out a way to not even have to carry a ton of inventory at times. I did a song and dance of sending people little sample sizes and mini sizes, and then figuring out what they needed to order, and then only ordering those products. I joined an affiliate program. I don't recommend that if you can avoid it. But eventually, just having somewhere to direct people to purchase products from you is really the biggest, most crucial like part of the entire thing. So once you have that up and running, everything else can kind of fall into place based upon how you want it to. I mean, that's the whole beauty of going virtual, is it really can morph into what you need it to be for your life.
So the steps were you got the website, you
Mhm.
figured out how to sell the products, right? So is it like drop shipping? Is everybody familiar with what drop shipping is? If anybody's so for those who don't, drop shipping is basically a client comes, gives me the money, I upsell it, and then I ship it to them, drop it at their
Well,
house.
you have the company ship it to them with
Right.
drop ship. So I would go on the company's website and I would order from them and have it drop shipped to my clients. Something I discovered a couple years after starting was that diversifying your inventory, bringing in your own inventory, is obviously going to make you the most money. It's not completely realistic for everybody right off the bat. But if you're able to have your own inventory to hand to clients, to ship to clients, to do whatever you need to do, that's where you're going to make the most money. The second part of that is to diversify so that people only want to shop with you. If you have them on 5 different products and they're from, 3 different product lines, they're not going to try to undercut you by going to that parent company's website and ordering directly from them, especially when those parent companies have set themselves up directly as a competition, and maybe you're offering sales or something of that nature, which is the reason I don't like affiliate programs. And again, if you're not familiar with affiliate programs like drop shipping, it's the other alternative, right? You can have inventory, you can ship products to them directly from your own stash. You could drop ship, where you go onto a company's website and ship directly from that company. Problem with that is they usually upcharge shipping, so it's like $10 to $15 to ship something now, and that's not great. Whereas if you have your own website, you usually get a significant discount in shipping. So my shipping costs will be like, $4 for most people. So that's a pretty good thing to offer your clients as well. Now, the affiliate program is different. That's where a company will say, hey, here's a link that is linked to your name. If you send your customers to this link and they order, we'll ship it to them. And the reason I don't love doing that is because you have now just given that customer's information to that company. And most companies, if not all, do not have your best interest at heart. So when you've released that information to them, now they can directly market to your client. If they have a sale, they can market it to your client. They can do all of these things, and they do. They will continue to keep that information well after you no longer use their products, or well after you aren't recommending those products anymore. So it's a problem. And I think anytime you can keep that customer's information to yourself and not put yourself and your relationship with that customer in jeopardy, you kind of want to protect that. So that's why I really advocate for trying your best to have your own solid inventory, which can be difficult, but doing it can be very, very worth it and lucrative too.
So smart. Okay, so you took it online, you figured out your products. I love the fact that you have multiple products because somebody said, I always wonder what it was like to have multiple lines. So there obviously is an advantage to that. How did you get people in? How did obviously like marketing? And then obviously we talked about like the consultation and the follow-up. So those, I made a post about how important a consultation is and then how important a follow-up is. So like, how did you get them in? And then how do you get them to like buy?
Yeah, really good questions, because that's what people struggle the most with, is how do I get the clients? And honestly, I think there's a lot of older estheticians, I think, with like a chip on their shoulder of, I'm not giving you information for free, right? They kind of hold on to information that they've learned, or, information that people aren't paying for, and they don't want to really share that knowledge. I kind of took the opposite approach and I like word vomited my knowledge all over anybody I could talk to. So if, like I said, there was somebody in a support group who was having issues, my first comment to that person on Facebook wasn't, I'm an esthetician, come see me and I'll help you. DM me and I can get you some, products. I really thoroughly listened. I asked the questions and I almost gave them an online consultation right then and there in the comments, because what you're doing is you're not just appealing to that person now, you're appealing to anybody who's watching.
100%.
So if somebody goes back in one of these groups and types in acne and they look at past posts and they see you responding in a, supportive, empathetic, educational manner, I have people who will reach out to me and say, hey, I saw this post from 2 years ago and you seem to know what you're talking about. Can you help me? I think if you can really get yourself out there and highlight your knowledge and highlight your education and highlight what you know as a professional, you'll attract the right kind of people. But when you come off as salesy, you're just a drop in the bucket.
I agree with
So,
you 100%. I think especially now with so much information getting thrown at you, it's kind of like, who do I trust and who has my best interest? So just giving them the information, it's just
absolutely.
like, oh, well, thank you. Like there's
Right.
nothing, yeah.
There's
Okay.
nothing wrong with that. And then, on top of that, too, I think there's so many people who will kind of like just get frustrated when they get asked a question in a group. So here, like a local group will ask about skincare and people will be like, Neutrogena or Rodent and Fields, and then you'll come out with like a full paragraph about why those aren't ideal and what you should use, and that person's still just going to be like, "Ooh, that was a lot of information. I'm going to go with the Rodent and Fields," and that can be really frustrating. But you have to understand that just because that person felt that way, anybody else who's reading this, who's actually going to be worth your time because they want to put forth the effort and not see that as too complicated, is still going to see that. So, you have to remember that when you're on social media, you're not just talking to the OP, you're talking to like anybody who's reading all of this essentially, and it's free marketing for yourself.
Got it. So and then after you get them, right? So you get them to book, then what?
So that's the other part of having a website. I think you want to have a website to be able to book consultations at. You want to have a website to be able to direct people to. I also have blogs on my website because here's the other thing. People don't let you now post website links in groups, right? They get pissed off when you do that, especially if they see it as self-promotion. So instead, what I do is I have blogs that I've written that I can reference. And I will say, oh, this person's talking about severely barrier impaired skin. I have a blog post on that. I will actually link to the blog post for them to read. And when they get to the bottom, it actually talks about my consultation. It talks about booking. Now they can they've got a call to action that is separate from me just soliciting them within the actual conversation. So you get them to book on your website. You get them scheduled essentially, however you're going to do it. There's so many different ways to do it, from, the cheap way that's not very easy, but you can have Dropbox set up or Google Drive set up, and you guys can kind of go back and forth with conversations. They can upload their images into folders. I always recommend having a separate email address for your consultation business because a lot of balls get dropped otherwise. I learned that the hard way too. I personally work with a company called Practice Better. I do have a link for 20% off, shameless plug here, but they
I'm like, put it in the chat.
I have to dig. I should have had that
Okay.
ready. I'm sorry. It's on my website. If you go to book a professional consultation,
Do you want to put the website?
I can put my website. Yeah, I'll put my website in here.
So I love how you said Google Drive. So I love Google Drive. So basically make a separate email, and in that Google Drive, you would share the link. So if you go to Google Drive, there's like a document, you would send that to your client and then all the info in there.
Right. And then you can create folders for them. You can create updated protocols, and you can type out protocols for them and keep it in one folder. You can do before and after images, and you can have them upload weekly images into that folder and ask them to date them. You can have so many different folders for different things and just share the entire thing with them. And that makes that really easy. The problem is you're not getting notified if they're really like adding something else. You're not, you don't necessarily have an easy way to chat with them. So it's got its ups and downs, but I think the biggest benefit of that is that it's free. You're not paying for another service, whereas Practice Better can get really expensive.
How much is it?
And they upped their pricing a couple of times, so I'm not sure. I think I'm paying like $70 a month.
Yeah.
But I'm at like the top tier. So what I always recommend if you go with something like that is do the like free one, play around, learn how to use it. I think it gives you like a free week or something. And then it's the bottom tier is probably like 25 a month or something.
And how does that help you? Like, does it send reminders? Is it chat? What is it?
Everything's automated. It's so nice. So there's a chat feature where you can chat with all of your clients. That's my favorite because I have them just put their images into the chat, and then it allows me to scroll through and look at their images in order, see the progress, lack of progress, whatever is going on with their skin. I can also pull up both images side by side right there, and that helps a lot too. There is protocol templates that you can create. And so if I get on a call with somebody and I'm having a consultation with them, I'm sort of creating a protocol in my mind the entire time I'm talking to them, and I'm taking notes because they have a very robust note-taking system as well. And I will hop off the call and I will go over to my protocol templates, and I can create a protocol template in under 2 minutes or a protocol for them off that template. And I do that in like under 2 minutes. And I always send them 2 different protocols when I get off the phone with them. One is their products that I'm going to be recommending, and the next one is purely educational. It has all the information they're going to need about their specific skin concern. And that way they can understand what their skin is going through. You know, if we have to repair a skin barrier that's just really compromised and everything's stinging, we're explaining why that's happening and why it's probably going to continue to happen. And they shouldn't be seeking, you know, this miracle cure overnight. They have some repair to do. You know, I mean, you can eat McDonald's your entire life and then switch to a salad, and you're probably not going to feel very good doing so. But does that mean the salad's bad for you? Not so much. So I kind of try to make these comparisons and explain everything and provide them with enough educational material for them to reference and go back to, and help them through the process, essentially. It also has, it integrates with FullScript, which FullScript is a supplement store, essentially. So you can have recommendations for supplements for your clients if that's in your practice and something you do, and you get a kickback from them. You know, you can, it's a sliding scale, so you can actually adjust how much of a kickback you want and how much of a discount you want to give your clients. So you can still make wholesale money on supplements that your clients are purchasing, which is really nice as well. So there's a lot of features in Practice Better that I've kind of learned to love over the years. And it's taken me a long way away from that Google Drive that I once did, but it served a purpose in the beginning, you know, when you're trying to just get off your feet, when you have 3 remote clients and not, you know, 30. It's a really good way to start.
I want to open it up for any questions because we are getting some. Do you already have any educationals typed out? Just copy and paste into their educational protocol.
Yes, I do. So they have templates in Practice Better, and I have a slew of them, like a whole list. So it'll be product recommendations, phase 1, product recommendations, phase 2, and then it'll be acne education, rosacea education, perioral dermatitis education. And it's just education on every single thing, depending on what their skin needs. And I didn't type that all out at once, right? My first clients were acne clients. So my acne one got developed first, and it continues to grow. You know, anytime I get asked a question more than once by a client, I assume a lot of people need to know that information. So I'll put it in there. It has a lot of information pertaining to what to eat, what not to eat, you know, how a closed comedone can become a cyst and the process that goes into it, and why acne needs hydration and not just dehydration. So it's got a lot of different information in there. But then, you know, I'd have a rosacea client. Now I need to type up a rosacea one. So you can grow it as you progress and not feel like it's something you need to do right away. That's the biggest mistake I see with going virtual, is people tend to say, I have to create all this stuff right up front. That's stressful. That's a lot of work. We don't. Just create it as you go and as it's needed.
You guys are welcome to turn on your mics if you would like.
How did you figure out what to charge for the consultation? Is it per visit or one price for your program? That's a really great question because that's evolved. My first consultations were free. They were free of charge because I required my clients to be completely compliant and on all the products I recommended, and my products were expensive. So I did free consultations, and clients were on average spending about $500 on their complete regimen. So that kind of bounced out a little bit. But the thing I also like to point out is that you can really adjust that as you need, right? There's a lot of people now doing remote and virtual consultations, and they will actually charge memberships, because if you're going to be talking to a client nonstop, chatting with them in chat, they feel like they need to be compensated for that time. I don't agree with that for myself. And the reason being is that if you charge somebody a monthly rate, they own you. If you're not getting back to them within 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 24 hours, whatever it is, they get pissed. And I'm a mom, I have 2 kids, there's going to be days when I'm just like, I'm not even going in my office. And the thing is, if I'm not charging them for that extra communication, then that's okay. That's okay to do. So my consultations at first were free. Then I started noticing sometimes people wouldn't show up as I started getting more clients. And that would make me very mad, because I'd usually find somebody to watch my child or something like that, even though it was a remote consultation. So I upped it to $15 just to ensure people would show up. That was great. But as I started getting more and more busy and I had more and more clients, my consultations are now $75 for the initial consultation, which is about 45 minutes long. And then I allow them, once they're in my system, to now schedule follow-up consultations, which are 15 minutes long and cost $25.
How much time do you schedule for the consultation, I think?
Oh, yeah, I just answered that. But yeah, it's just, I usually schedule about an hour. There are some clients who you kind of go in and talk to, and they don't give you much to work with. So it's like a very one-sided thing, which I hate. It's also why I don't see teenagers. I can't handle that. But other people will want to talk to you a lot, and they want to really go back and forth with you about just about everything emotionally when it comes to things like acne in their skin. Go really in depth into the science or something like that. And I usually I'll go as long as they want to, usually. So about an hour, if not a little bit more.
How much time do you schedule for the consultation? And then somebody asked, how did you find the products?
So my products, I have a very high, I guess, bar set for what I will use and what I will recommend. I think I catch a lot of heat for all of that when I kind of divulge exactly how I choose my products, just because I'm super picky about things like comedogenic ingredients. I'm really educated in the skin barrier and the needs of the skin. So I really pick out my products based upon, their lipid ratios and their lipid concentrations, and not just their actives. I have studied cosmetic chemistry. I kind of, I consider myself very well educated in a lot of those things. So finding products for me is not easy. And then even harder than that is finding product lines that actually support the esthetician. I find that they're few and far between these days. And sometimes you find the most amazing products, but the company is really terrible, or you find a really awesome and supportive company, but their products just leave a lot to be desired. So I'm kind of at an impasse right now. When it comes to products, I'm kind of hesitant to recommend a lot of the ones I'm working with, because again, I just don't love the companies. I'm personally working on creating a product line myself that'll hopefully be launched this summer. But for now, I've got just about 8 product lines that I'm dabbling in, and I carry a few products from each. So I know that wasn't a very specific answer. I'm sorry, but I just have a really, really, really hard time giving out that kind of information. You can find them all on my website and look through all the products. Any product that's on there, I have verified is, a good quality product. So at least there's that.
How long did it take you to get full going with being virtual?
Way too fast. When you're committed and you really put in the work, you can get full really fast.
Yeah.
Something that I used to do, and I don't know that that's gonna be something everybody can do, but when I when I first had my kids, again, I needed some kind of mental outlet to just help myself get through the day. I felt like my brain was kind of dying when you read board books all day long. So yeah, I would seriously sit in some of these groups on Facebook and I would type in things like acne, skin, and I would just see what posts popped up and then I would just respond. So I was everywhere. I was everywhere and I was having conversations and I was just, at least feeling like I was getting myself my sense of self-worth back. So that was kind of a little bit of a different situation, but it filled me up fast. I wound up having a lot of people reaching out. I have over 400 clients right now. Not all of them are completely active because that's kind of the difference with virtual is your goal isn't the same as when you're in the treatment room. When you're in the treatment room and you clear somebody's skin and their skin is now healthy, that means less money for you, right? They're not going to be coming in as regularly. Now you have to replace that person. When you're doing things virtually and working with somebody, if you clear their skin successfully, that means more money and less work for you. You now have that client for life because they trust you and they're only going to be purchasing products from you still, but because they're clear and because you've educated them really well, they no longer are reaching out to you all the time. So, you've got all of these clients. I can say I've got 300 clients, but that doesn't mean I'm talking to 300 people in a day. I have about 30 active clients that I talk to at any given time. And I actually have to shut down my remote consultations and not take on new clients at certain times because it just becomes too overwhelming otherwise.
Drew, with acne clients, do you ever have a hard time moving forward with them after the consultation? I find what happens often is that consultation goes great. I give them all the info, such as products they need to be on, lifestyle, diet changes, etc. Via email, communication is great, but then they drop off. I'm assuming because they realize it's too much for them to commit. Is there a way to handle this to get people on board?
That's a really good question. I have filtered my clients. I've worked really hard to filter my clients. I think in the beginning, you just want to talk to everybody and get everybody on board with you. But, when it comes to virtual, so much of the responsibility and commitment lies with your clients, and they have to be okay with that. If they're not, it's not going to work out. So I have a walkthrough a client has to do ahead of time before they can even meet with me. And it explains my process. It explains everything else. It goes through what they can expect and how we're probably going to have to work together for about a year before we really get to where we want to be. And sometimes now I've found that people drop off during that process. So I haven't lifted a finger before they've realized, this is too much work for me. If this is just the walkthrough before I've even met her, I don't want to deal with this crazy. So, really filtering through your clients and finding a way to communicate the level of commitment this is going to take right up front. But also, I think the biggest part of it, and this is why I love the chat feature in Practice Better so much, is being that support system. Because the one thing that separates this way of doing things, I think, the most from everything else is that level of support. I mean, I had severe cystic grade 4 acne, and I can't tell you how frustrating it was that I would go see a dermatologist and they'd throw something at me that I didn't understand how to use, but I had no way of figuring it out. I had no extra support past that. They didn't want to set up a follow-up consult or meet with me. They didn't want to support me past that point. I got no support. So I would then go meet with an esthetician who would, of course, tell me the opposite of the dermatologist. But even then, it was just in the treatment room. I never got any additional support. Well, now you're able to offer that additional support. And when it's in chat, it's a little less formal than sending out an email. So they can just ask questions in the chat and you can get back to them. And it's very conversational. It makes it so that they have a different level of support. And it's really nice. So I think if you can figure out a way to be a little bit more of a presence and constantly supportive, it really helps prevent that drop off from occurring.
Did that help? Do you find that you have to deal with clients waiting to return products? Products don't like for whatever reason? Oh, do they return products?
Or do you usually provide samples to trial? No, I don't provide samples to trial, but what I do is I educate people a lot on their skin. And 9 times out of 10, when a person thinks they're reacting to something that I've suggested, they're not. Impaired barrier, the washout effect, lots of issues with the skin can cause somebody to not respond well to a product. So the way that I explain it to clients is that we are about to have a conversation with your skin, right? Anything your skin tells us is important in the context of that conversation. You know, if we put this product on it and it stings, that is your skin's way of telling us something. That doesn't mean your skin hates that product. That's telling us and communicating with us the actual existing state of your skin. So we need to know that. And I need to know that. So when that happens, I just need that feedback. And when you give me that feedback, I will adjust things accordingly. So what will happen is, say I recommend 4 products to a client: an oil cleanser, a toner, a serum, a moisturizer. Now, let's say they put the toner and the serum on and both of them sting. Well, I know that the moisturizer I told them to use is super reparative. I know that the oil cleanser is super reparative. I'm going to have them pull off those other products for a couple of days, and I'm going to have them only use the oil cleanser and the moisturizer. And, you know, as long as you are behaving with confidence and you've kind of given them the heads up of what to expect and not let them kind of control the narrative, it instills confidence, and it also helps them to not be fearful, right? If somebody's skin turns red when they use something, they're scared. They're scared, they want to return it, they want their money back, they're done. So if you provide them with insight before that happens and let them know that that is a potential, and you kind of give them this is what could happen, and I need to know if it does, please don't freak out and don't just try to immediately like return the product. We want to work through it because that's what we're doing here. You know, you can usually avoid those situations altogether then.
Are you posting in other esthetician groups or non-skincare groups for pros?
Do you mean like for my
I'm assuming it's for so at the beginning of the webinar, she said it was for other mom groups.
Oh yeah, no. When I was responding not in pro groups. I have no no desire to help professionals out with their skin. That tends to be a recipe for disaster. I mean, I will if they ask. It just winds up kind of, we all have different approaches kind of thing. So yeah, I'm doing it in like local support groups, local mom groups, or even not necessarily local ones, but just groups that I'm in, where people will sometimes bring up skin.
Great. Next question, Drew. I have followed you for some time and I've always been blown away by your knowledge. I am still a fairly new esthetician and I'm overwhelmed by all the information that is out there. Will you be offering further education?
Yes, absolutely. We're coming out with a product line this summer, like I mentioned, and me and my business partner are currently working on a very robust educational platform as well. You know, I personally am working on an educational platform that's going to be more geared towards virtual, working with clients how to set up your business for success. But then the educational platform with my business partner is going to be geared more towards the science and skin science and all of the, you know, really important stuff that I feel is lacking in the industry, that we don't necessarily learn in school, which is tough. So yes, to answer your question, we're very excited to be coming out with that.
Woohoo!
Whoa. Do you still see in-person clients for services? Yes, but they have to twist my arm now. I don't want to. Like they'll reach out to me. I'm like, but how bad is your acne? Can I just like give you some things to do at home? Let's do homework instead. You do it. So I don't
have a treatment room.
I do. I have a treatment room. I have a table. I've got everything. It's in my home. So, you know, it's there. I don't know. You know, as you get older, I don't understand how estheticians are able to do what I used to do, right? It's like Valentine's Day and I did like, you know, 9 facials in a day. I don't know how I did that. I do one and I'm like, I'm tired. My back hurts. So yeah, it's just a lot. And then I've got a dog who just whines at the door and it's not great anymore. Oh
Do
my
you have,
gosh, Michelle. I plead the fifth. Um, we will be making an announcement and talking about all of that fun stuff here in the upcoming weeks. So I'll let you know if you're on point or not. Um,
yes.
Yolanda, which newsletter are you referring to?
I think it's the one I'm gonna send out, the replay.
Oh, okay, cool. Oh, do you teach your clients or recommend tools for extractions? I'm always getting asked about this. So, no. um, Extractions, the way that I treat acne is a little bit different. I don't actually do extractions in the treatment room either, for the most part, unless they have really impacted blackheads. Other than that, I don't do extractions. I use a specific treatment that I've kind of created over time that utilizes galvanic and an ultrasonic spatula, and it melts sebum within the follicle so that you can then easily remove it with an ultrasonic spatula, which turns water into vapor, shoots it into the pore. And as you're running it over the skin, you can literally just see plugs coming out. So I don't find it necessary to do extractions when I'm performing treatments. When clients are treating their skin properly and, in a healthy and gentle manner, using anti-inflammatories, barrier support products, acne actives that aren't just aggressively treating the acne. Then we actually enhance cellular turnover through hydration and while lowering inflammation. So you don't actually have to extract anything at that point because you're loosening it up and turning it over itself, which is great. So I take a very different approach than that. And I find that it doesn't focus around extractions and exfoliation and resurfacing the way that most acne treatments do.
Question about the galvanic, because I
Yeah.
have it and I don't use it.
Uh,
How do you incorporate it and what do you put over the skin for that? And then somebody said, what ultrasonic spatula do you use? So do you do galvanic, then spatula, I'm assuming?
I do. So my facial protocol for acne is essentially just a very gentle but hydrating cleanse, sometimes double cleanse with oil or cleansing balm that I have, and followed by an enzyme. And after that, I will do galvanic with a disincrustation solution on the skin, and that raises the pH of the skin. So, some people use baking soda. I find that a little bit too aggressive. A lot of disincrustation solutions do include algae in them, so you do want to be careful because that can be acnegenic for a lot of clients and problematic. You don't want to create acne while you're treating acne. Personally, I use one from Rococo Botanicals, but they have a really high minimum and aren't very attainable to everybody. So that's something that I'm looking into creating as well, because I just haven't found a quality one on the market. And then
Please make one.
it's an easy product to make. I don't understand how so many people get it wrong.
What do you make? How do you make it?
It just raises the pH. So you're just using a solution with higher pH ingredients. And there's so many different ways to make it. And it's just adding different actives in it that are going to be soothing and, help not be too aggressive while you're raising the pH, right? Because raising the pH alters the microbiome and can cause a lot of issues. And you want to make sure you're not doing that. So adding supportive ingredients into that is important, but people add supporting ingredients in and they turn out to be problematic for acne skin. And that just makes no sense. But then I'll wipe that off and I will put on just water onto the skin while I use the ultrasonic spatula. And I use, oh gosh, what is the name of that one? Bel Air Industries ultrasonic spatula is a workhorse. I think anything that is not plugged in while you're using it is not going to be strong enough to do what you need to do. And the Bel Air one is plugged in. It is hardcore. It does not die. I've had it for years and years and years. It's amazing. And I use the EquiPro Ionoderm galvanic machine, which I absolutely love. I used to have a just warehouse of dead galvanic machines from all the ones I've gone through that were dirt cheap. And I finally forked out the money for the EquiPro and I never looked back. Okay, any tips for developing the confidence, taking the leap to go virtual, or is it just jump in and go kind of mentality? Yeah, it's a jump in and go mentality. I am not a confident person by nature. You just kind of have to get in there and, I think really honing in on your education so that you're confident in what you're talking about can help elevate your perceived confidence. So just really digging into that education can help that a lot. And do you have to do a lot of research regarding the most efficient, cost-effective shipping companies, etc.? No, you're whoever you go through for your website, or if you use a secondary thing like Go Shippo or ShipSpace or something like that, or ShipStation, I mean, will usually give you those options, right? So my website, for example, is through Shopify, and I get a significant discount in shipping through USPS through them. Now, recently, because they don't integrate easily with FedEx, I have set up a FedEx account. And if you get them on the phone and tell them you're a business and what your volume is, they will give you a really good discount too. I was just trying to ship to Canada the other day, and it was going to be $58 shipping. And I talked to them through FedEx, and I got a quote for my new business account. It was going to be $28.
Wow.
So huge savings there if you can just talk to them and get an account. Or, I find within the US, honestly, USPS isn't terrible. They got a really bad rap, but I've had like a lot of success with them for shipping. What have been the most successful channels, forms of marketing that you've used to attract your ideal client, especially when so much of skincare marketing these days is fast beauty? That's a really good question because it's not about volume. I think in the treatment room, you're performing a treatment on a face, and past that, it doesn't really matter. But when you're working virtually, you have to find the right kind of client who is going to not just be committed, but also be on the same page as you. And the reason I say that is because you can have a really committed client that also feels like they know everything and they've done all of their research on all the toxic ingredients out in the skincare realm, and they will just sit there and argue with you the whole time. And I can't hang with that at all. So, I kind of draw the line with some certain clients, and I don't hesitate. If I don't feel we're a good fit, I will let them know. But as for attracting the right kind of clients, that all falls into like providing the education that you want to provide, right? When you're going to provide robust education to the public, and the people who are attracted to that and who resonate with that and who are willing to do the work of reading what you put out, absorbing what you put out, and even having questions about what you put out, those are going to be the right kind of clients. Just them being interested to that level is important. And another thing I do with my clients to retain them too, and this is kind of going back to the clients that drop off a little bit. When I see a client working really hard and, say we've been working on acne and they're starting to purge and their skin is getting a little bit more congested looking before it gets better. But I'm really impressed by how committed they've been, all of their check-ins and everything. I send them a care package. I will put together, pretty much a treatment protocol out of samples or individual products or anything like that. And I will write out exactly what I want them to do to give themselves a little home treatment to offer their skin a little bit of inflammatory relief or something like that. And it'll just kind of be a thank you for sticking with me and putting your trust in me and for being as committed and compliant as you've been. And that can really make a difference to a client. Anytime you give them any kind of freebies and acknowledge that they're putting in the hard work, it helps you retain those clients that you just worked really hard to get. Oh, good. And I don't think I see any other specific questions. Do you have suggestions for where I can learn more about nutrition? FullScript actually has a lot of really great educational sources on there, but other than that, it's the world of nutrition is tricky. I'm very, very I guess, selective about some of the things that I recommend. I make sure my clients know I am not a nutritionist. I'm not a functional medicine doctor. I don't play one on TV. I'm not any of those things. So if I'm going to recommend something, you know, I let them know to check with their doctors, or if they can work in tandem with a functional medicine doctor while seeing me, I encourage it. But as far as where to learn about nutrition, there's a lot of not accurate information out there right now, and I don't have one fully trusted source. I'd say learn everything, but also question everything that you're learning when it comes to nutrition, like with skin. Oh, how do we stay connected so we don't miss the launch of the products and education? I have, hopefully this isn't stepping on any toes, but I have a skincare group called Science and Aesthetics that I'm going to be making a lot of announcements about that in. And we will be launching a website where you'll be able to sign up for newsletters about that soon, very soon. I don't even know how to feed myself. Me either, Regina. Me either. I get that. So I think essentially just a couple more talking points that I had that are kind of important to notice is just to repeat, every client with virtual consultations is an investment. Whereas, you know, every client in the treatment room is kind of an instant gratification where you get that money right up front. But every client you land for virtual aesthetics is really an investment. Your whole goal is to teach them about their skin, to educate them, and then to give them a safe place to ask questions, a reliable place to purchase products from. And, you know, you can kind of keep that relationship strong for years to come. And then every year you're gaining more and more passive income because you've put forth the effort with those clients initially. And, you know, that level of support that we offer, and as we continue to grow, is really what sets us apart, I think, from a lot of other in-person services. And that's really, really just a crucial thing to keep in mind. What are the biggest issues in business that you've run into working virtually? So many. I've learned a lot. I think the hardest part for me has been, and I think this is for everybody, I think this is in the treatment room and stuff too, but working with skincare companies has been probably the hardest. It's hard to rely on somebody else, essentially, right? So I would have my business modeled a specific way. You know, how I would treat the skin. I was treating them with specific products in a specific manner so that I could really test the skin in the beginning and have like an evaluatory period with the initial products I recommended. And, you know, the companies would do something like take away a certain size of a product that I really heavily relied on. There have been days when I would just be in tears because I'm like, you just cut me off at the knees here. I have to redo my entire thing. But, you know, all of those things where I've run into issues have only served to teach me valuable lessons, and have helped me kind of look forward to brainstorming. I really enjoy a challenge now where I'm not crying as much. You know, I see it as a challenge. I enjoy kind of brainstorming ways to change things and improve things within my own business, and also helping other estheticians do the same with their business now. So I think that's been the biggest challenge for me, is just all of a sudden not being able to rely on certain products or rely on a company for a certain level of support, or, you know, a company will raise their minimums to some obscene level and I can't even keep up. It's insane. You know, shipping delays, things like that. So if you have clients, inventory is a song and dance. It's hard. It is hard work. Inventory in itself is a full-time job. Keeping things on your shelf and making sure you have enough, all while managing cash flow, can be a full-time job. You know, one day you'll have 0 in sales, and the next day you just sold $3,000 worth of product. And making sure you have product coming, and then all of a sudden a box shows up and you're missing products that you've already had people order on your website. Those are all very difficult things to overcome as a online business, I think. So I think those are honestly the biggest issues when it comes to that. Outside of that, the cool thing about virtual is it can really morph into anything you need it to be. So problems don't have to be such big problems as they are in like a brick and mortar store.
How much is the potential to make in a virtual business? Because I do like to call it the money-making esthetician. And the reason for that is I think it's really cool to have a goal. I think to see like what can happen, and then you brainstorm to how to get there. What has been like your highest month to your lowest month?
Yeah, I mean, it can get really big. I'm going to pull up my statistics here just because I think it helps to look at the exact numbers here. So let's look at this.
And then somebody said, can you repeat the name of the galvanic machine you use?
Yeah, it's the Ionoderm from Equipro, EQUIPRO. Jen Bucher just came in the room. She sells it. Jen, do you want to put your website in the comments if you're here? Because
I'm like, Jen, if you want to do a live on it,
she should.
Email.
She's a smarty pants. She's got some really good info on that. All right, so high tier season is going to be when holiday sales and things like that happen. And generally, holiday season will bring in about $60,000 to $80,000 just in that month of November alone. You know, then you kind of have to recover from that in your low tier season. So the lowest I'll usually still make is about 20, I think it was 27,000 in product sales last month. So you can see a huge shift. I usually sit between 35 and 45 on an average month though.
Can I ask if that's profit from retail sales or total product sales?
That's going to be total product sales. And then my, you know, my services and things like that are calculated separately.
What do you find are your highest months, your lowest months? So like is it pretty like new year, new skin kind of thing? People are like more committed.
Yeah. I think it's November's the biggest month for sure. December's the second biggest month, and then January is the slowest month.
I keep hearing that.
Yeah, it's rough. I think it's because everybody kind of like, you know, blew their load for the holidays. It just winds up being like, and I'm broke. So yeah, I mean, I know I've spent money on holidays, having 2 kids and stuff like that. And then now summer camps open January 1st for registration. And it's like awesome. So I don't think anybody can afford skincare in January or even to eat at this point.
Can we talk about the follow-up? I want to talk about the magical follow-up.
Yes, please. It's my favorite. And it's always been something, even in the spa, that I didn't love that they did. I'm like, why don't you call your client to see how they're doing? You just spent an hour on their face.
So really quick, Angela had a question. Can you recall about how much you were making in retail sales monthly in the beginning when you first started your virtual consultation?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'll never forget the first like ding of my phone when I had a sale that I wasn't expecting. It was like the best feeling in the world. So, you know, you're not making a ton, but here's the difference, and something that's really important to keep in mind. When you first start out and you're making like $7,000 in sales, you're probably making more money than when you're making like $100,000 in sales. When you're making $100,000 in sales, your overhead goes up. You know, everything from paying somebody to do shipping and helping with that to, you know, potentially paying for marketing, paying for software to help you manage everything. You know, you're not necessarily taking home as much money as you were. So starting out is kind of like that sweet spot. It's really nice to be able to be selling, you know, $8,000 of skincare, just keeping 4,000 of it and just buying more inventory. Like, it's really a nice feeling in the beginning when you don't have a ton to do, when you're using Google Drive and you're not paying for, you know, Practice Better, and you're not paying for all this other extra stuff. I would say in the beginning, I mean, yeah, it was only a couple thousand and it started growing from there, but you start to see those numbers double and sometimes triple every year. Because the thing is, if you're bringing in new clients, some of those older clients, if you've done everything that you can to help their skin and they still want to stick with you, you know, they're still buying from you. They're just not vocal. And, you know, you can go into your, wherever you're doing your sales from, and look at your statistics, your year over year, and also what clients are spending the most and have spent the most with you over a lifetime. And you can look at how those clients from the beginning are still like your loyal bunch who have spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars with you over that time. So, you know, it definitely does start out slow, but you're doing less, you're a little less stressed, and you're bringing home a little bit more.
Did you have a referral incentive?
In the beginning, yeah. Oh yeah, I had a referral incentive in the beginning. I'm trying to think of what it was. I think it was like a 20% off of products if they referred a friend.
I did put in the chat because I brought in Alex to do websites. So if you guys need help with your websites, I feel like, well, two things. How important is a website? Because everybody's like, can I just use my Instagram or my Gloss Genius booking? So how important was a website to that? I feel like you had hit that a little bit in the beginning, but we had people show up late. And then two, can we talk about the magical follow-up?
Absolutely, on both of those accounts. Your website's the most important thing that you're going to have, right? It's how you drive your clients to you. Everything in your website should be linked. So if you have products on your website, add in a little protocol at the bottom, add in a little bit of other links to other products that work well with that product. Talk about it, you know, stop thinking about your website as like Sephora, where it's like cold and impersonal, and recognize that they're there because of you, and talk about, you know, why you love this product and what it's done for you and what you've seen and before and afters and everything else to support those products and link them to other products. You can also put links to blogs that you've written. If I have a product that repairs the skin barrier really well, then maybe I have a link to my blog on repairing the skin barrier, and then they can learn about other products that are going to help with this. Because inevitably you're going to have people who want to just figure it out themselves. They don't want to have a consultation. They don't want to meet with you. Give them the opportunity to do that through your website too. And then also, you know, if you don't have a place for them to purchase products from you, and then it's a little too hard for them to give you their money. And we don't like to make it hard for them to give you their money. So try to make it as easy as possible and get that set up. And then, as far as the follow-up goes, you know, it's like I said, that level of support that we offer when treating people virtually is what sets us apart. It's what makes things so different. When I first started out virtually, there was so much pushback from the aesthetics community about what I was doing. So much. There were constantly comments about how your job is to look at the skin, to feel the skin. You can't do your job virtually. That's, you know, that's impossible. And I was almost like hesitant to say what I did or how I treated the skin when I was talking to professionals, because there's just so much pushback. And then COVID hit and everybody was like, so how are you doing things virtually again? And it made it so that it was a little bit more widely accepted. And the thing is that, you know, we're able, like I said, we're having communication with the skin. We're having a conversation. I want to know what's going on with it. If it stung when you put on a product, I need to know about it immediately. So even instead of just, you know, following up, you're giving them the tools to follow up with you. You're giving them permission to follow up with you. You're letting them know that, you know, it's not inconveniencing me when you tell me how your skin behaved. I need to know, even if you put it on and like your skin feels great, tell me that. In fact, through the check-ins, I give them a list of questions to answer, because I found that when you tell somebody, tell me how your skin did, they don't know how to answer that question. It was still skin. Like, I don't know. What do you want from me? So I was like, follow these questions each day for the first few days so that I can monitor how your skin's behaving. And it's, how did my skin feel in the morning when I woke up before I did anything to it? How did my skin feel in the morning immediately after cleansing? How did my skin feel in the middle of the day? Did I get oily? Did I feel really dry? Did I feel like a complete oil slick? Did my inflammation raise? If I have acne, is it a little more pronounced, a little more red? And then how did my skin feel after I cleansed at night before going to bed? All of those things are going to tell me so much about the skin. They're going to tell me about the circadian rhythm. They're going to tell me about, is your skin behaving the way it should? Is your skin at its 24-hour cyclical best in the morning? Are you experiencing higher levels of transepidermal water loss midday? You know, it tells me where I need to put my focus when we're giving them products and telling them what to do. So I usually have them follow that, but, you know, by following up with a client, even after a treatment, and just saying, how did your skin do? You know, they may not even be paying attention to their skin. And then the second you ask, they are. And the second they see that you actually care, they feel like they do want to partner with you, because this is a partnership. This isn't just somebody taking their money, right? So we want to separate ourselves from the cold doctors who have no bedside manner and who just want to throw prescriptions at them and not support them on their journey to clear health and clear skin and, you know, healthy skin. It's really, really tricky, I think, as a consumer to feel so overwhelmed with a saturated market that is skincare, and to have somebody who can actually like support them through it and provide them with a full level of support is just really important.
Do you ever struggle with how much to post / share free education tips versus the education you are giving to your clients directly working with you?
No, not at all. Give it all away. Do it all. Because the thing is, and I told my daughter this actually last night while I was helping her with her math homework, because she was getting frustrated with me, which was fine. You know, it's math. But I told her, I need you to not get frustrated. I'm going to explain this to you 3 times in 3 different ways. Don't get frustrated with me for repeating myself. Just sit there and listen. Okay. If you can explain something to somebody 3 times in 3 different ways, they may understand it. Most of the time, it's going to go right over their heads, especially if it's something foreign to them, like skin. So if you're giving your client the education, don't expect them to retain it. They usually won't. If they then see it again, maybe presented in a different manner on social media, and you've done that post, they might start to understand it. And then maybe they're coming at you and telling you, you know, my skin's responding poorly to XYZ, and you hop on a quick call with them and you say, okay, and you kind of explain it in yet another way. They may really start to understand it then, and they may really say, okay, so this is how a skin barrier functions. This is what I'm doing wrong, right? So it's never like, you know, that's not all I have to offer my clients, is just that little bit of information. They're not going to really take any information I give them to heart. I would not be surprised if 2% of my clients open up the educational material that I provide them after the consultation. But it's there. It's there for them to reference. It's there, you know, if they're having a moment of distress because of the way their skin's behaving, and they need to turn around and refer to it. Like, I think that's kind of what we want to do, is we want to over educate and just try to beat it into their heads at every corner. It takes a while. So no, I definitely don't really ever worry about like overstepping if I, you know, give out information to clients and then give it out to the general public. I think that's important to do, actually. Do you have any recommendations for education on cosmetic chemistry and ingredients? Again, we're going to be putting together a lot on this. I feel like cosmetic chemistry and ingredients is really tricky because it's constantly evolving. There are, ingredient compounds where they're using multiple ingredients to create a function that is not necessarily identifiable from one singular ingredient. So even just like reading an ingredient dictionary, reading, things like that, it doesn't really give you the full scope and picture. And unless you're a chemist who works with these ingredients all the time, it can be really tough to recognize them and to understand them. So, we're going to do our best. We're going to put together some education surrounding this. But yeah, I mean, it's a tricky topic to tackle, especially in an industry where I feel like a lot of cosmetic chemists don't understand skin. And that makes things even trickier when you have skincare therapists who don't understand cosmetic chemistry. So it's tough. As far as like a robust education that exists, just short of taking a certifiable cosmetic chemistry course, which is usually really extensive, and becoming a cosmetic chemist, it's kind of tricky to just find something that's a little bit of an overview. Excuse me. So yeah, hopefully we can finish up what we're working on and provide you with a little bit more in that department. I charge $15, $25 for a 15-minute follow-up for clients if they want to schedule it. Now, the chat function, when they're chatting with me, I don't charge for that. Jen says, I'm sorry if you have already answered this. Are you drop shipping items, or do you carry inventory, or a combination of the two? I carry all my inventory. I don't drop ship. They're charging an arm and a leg for drop shipping now, from $10 to $15 to ship an item to a client, which I think is just ridiculous. And they won't let me use my FedEx account, so I don't drop ship.
Can you go more into depth about cosmetic chemistry, not knowing skincare?
Oh yeah. So here's a fun one. I took a training for cosmetic chemistry, and the woman, I was taking my lessons from, is a really well-known, world-renowned cosmetic chemist. And she says, if you're going to do a clinical trial for an acne product, you need to find participants between the ages of I think she said 14 and 22. It was around those ages, because acne doesn't exist outside of those ages. Well, it does, but not a lot. Okay, that just made me want to scream. I'm like, that is my entire clientele base. Like, I am 37. I still get acne. I have acne prone skin. You have a lot of cosmetic chemists who learn chemistry, right? That's what they do. But they have no background in skincare. They have no background in skin. They don't understand how the skin actually functions. They don't understand the physiological needs of the skin barrier. They don't understand, a lot of the components that should be going into skincare. And instead they rely on marketing materials from raw ingredient suppliers, which aren't always on point. So it's a little bit tricky. And you see this a lot. There's a very popular retail line that just sold to a larger line for close to $1 billion. And the woman has gone on the record and said, I have no experience in skincare. I just took this course in cosmetic chemistry and then worked with the lab and came up with this product line. So it's a scary thing. It's a scary, scary world out there. As far as having an overall favorite line to work with, no, I don't. Just really rough right now to say, but I've been beyond frustrated with skincare lines now for the past 5 years. How can we explain this to clients, especially with the uptick of them speaking on skin on things like TikTok? I mean, I just tell them to stay away from those. I think a lot of my clients, thankfully, try to pick where they get their education from. And if they're picking TikTok, then or they'll bring questions about things to me, and I'm able to kind of be like, well, this is why that's incorrect. And, I welcome discourse. I think having elevated conversation surrounding skin is super duper important. I think, that's another issue I have with product lines is they do try to censor discourse surrounding skincare and control the narrative. And that's a big issue that I have with a lot of companies right now. But we should welcome it. So if there is somebody out there promoting something asinine that makes no sense, then, I think being able to have that elevated conversation and not underestimating our clients' intelligence, usually a lot of them can understand at least a little bit of it, and really highlighting why that's not correct. There's a lot of people who do that really well. And I think that's an important thing to do. And, directing your clients to the right education, whether it's you, whether it's somebody you would admire or something like that. I always share resources with my clients and I say, hey, this is not who you should be listening to. If you want to learn more about this topic, listen to this person. So, providing those kinds of things can really help too. So it's not just you screaming into a void. I think that's it for the questions right now. Does anybody have anything else they want to go over?
So let me put the replay. So I am going to send the replay out via newsletter. And we will also catch it on YouTube. I try to put it on everything. Put it here. And then, Drew, when your classes come out and your product line, keep me updated so we can, post it. Yeah.
Absolutely. I definitely will. Thank you for this opportunity. And it was really great to chat with everybody.
I hope you guys got a lot from this. I was so excited. I would love to keep the conversation going in the group. So once you guys execute any of these ideas or topics, please post it because I really hope it inspires others. And thank you so much for giving us your time and all your knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thanks.